link to. Oh no, we're on,
Oh,
Joe.
here we go.
I can see it.
We're on.
There we go. 57.
Okay.
We've been on for a bit.
All right.
Can you hear it? There we go. We're here. Okay. All right. Yay.
Awesome. So today, we thought we'd share with you this amazing free tool that you have literally at your fingertips, and why it works. What is the scientific reasons behind why tapping works, how it's different to other modalities. So Ilka, let's go. Why does this amazing tool work?
Well, tapping works because it works with the system in the body that produces chemicals, hormones, whatever you want to call them, that really is part of us going into either fight, flight, or freeze. So when we get overwhelmed, or when we get angry, or when we just want to run away, that's our body has, produced these chemicals and things so that our blood pressure goes up, our pupils dilate. All these reactions happen in the body, and if we stayed in this all the time in a really stressed, highly stressed state, it's really like robbing from our own immune system. So like in our Western world, we do tend to, I know I did you, Joe, live in this kind of highly stressed, up to here, always in overwhelm state, until I really started using tapping in my daily life. So the way that those chemicals are produced and hormones are produced is through these organs in your body, which are connected to the places that we tap on. So we've got up above the eyes here, we've got the bladder meridian. Side of the eye is like gallbladder, small intestine. Under the eye, this is a big one, stomach. The amount of people that I work with and they get anxiety, and I'll ask them, where's the anxiety? And it's in the stomach. So just by gently tapping on this meridian here, you're in direct connection with that and calming. If you get anxiety a lot, that's just to tap on that place is an amazing thing to do. And then this meridian here is the kidney meridian. So I'll just shut that down. There we go. So we've got the kidney meridian here. So by tapping, and with Fast EFT that we use in our course, it's just these 4 points. They're easy to remember: bladder, small intestine, gallbladder, stomach, and the kidney meridian. And then what we do in Fast EFT too is grab your wrist. Now there's 14 different tapping meridian points around the wrist. In normal EFT they use different places on the fingers and that, but you can just actually grab your wrist, and you're going to incorporate all of those. So that's why traditional EFT tapping works. And then in Fast EFT we have like another way that tapping works, and that's by using what we call a defractionation tool. We're just checking that we're actually live here. And defractionation is kind of a made-up word that came about through my mentor Robert G. Smith. In hypnosis, they use a word called fractionation, where they're taking you down into a hypnotic trance. That's what hypnotists do. But in Fast EFT, we kind of know that you're really good at getting yourself into trances. Particularly parents, I don't know, well, I was really good at getting myself into overwhelm, into overthinking, into anxiety, into worry, into stress, into all these different things. I mean, Joe, you might experience intense like loneliness or sadness and anxiety. All of these emotions are what we call in Fast EFT trances. And by bringing your fingers up and tapping and feeling your fingers tapping, you're actually getting yourself out of this trance. You're breaking it up, basically, is what defractionation means. Is you're starting to break it up so it doesn't have so much hold over you. Because after 42 years, some of the trances that I would go into, like a stress trance or an overwhelmed trance, they had a lot of hold over me. And this is often why people think, oh, tapping doesn't work for me.
Yeah, so we get some people say, and this was me in the beginning.
Yeah.
I've tried it. It doesn't work, you know. And like, of course, back then when I'm in my trances big time, in my crap big time, I'm not going to let it work. I'm not going to let anything work.
Yes, that's such a good point, because our coping skills have kept us safe in our family of origin for our entire lives. So for me, I've developed a really strong coping skill of being numb, like going into freeze, basically. So if anything's overwhelming me, I'm just kind of zoning out. I'm in freeze, which is still a feeling. And I learned that through Faster EFT, and I could actually start tapping myself out of that state even, which was absolutely amazing. But yes, because these coping skills are so strong in the beginning, this is why I myself had to work with practitioners. I had to work on getting to the core of the issue. I would definitely I learned to tap in the heat of the moment, and I made a commitment to that. But I was also working with practitioners who could go back, and also with Faster EFT, I mean, the piece de resistance of Faster EFT is that we also go into the mind and change the origin, like the memories, the origin of where a lot of these trances came from. So for me, a lot of the going into freeze came from being yelled at, or being really, really scared by my dad, who got triggered one day. And I learned to have that freeze response so that I didn't get hurt, even more than I might have got hurt if I hadn't been able to freeze. So a Faster EFT also understands how successful the coping skills have been for you. And this is a huge reason why you don't want to let them go, because they've been highly, highly successful. And then you've kind of learned to use them in your adult life as well, like with your husband and with your kids. I was good at zoning out to my children. I wanted to be more present with them. But this coping skill, as soon as things got too overwhelming, I would just be like, can't hear you, can't see you, I'm somewhere else. My kids would say, Mum, you're somewhere else, come back to us.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I know, Jo, you've had different, do you want to talk a little bit about your coping skills? Because they're a little bit different to mine. Like, everybody has different ones.
Yeah, well, I do resonate with the zoning out, but mine's more, I go to silence and abandonment. Like, I will move away from situations that bring up emotion in me. And if anybody else is around me with strong emotions, I just want to run. I just want to get out of there. So, if I can't leave the situation, then freeze is very familiar to me. But so I might look calm on the outside because I'm still and I'm not loud, I'm not aggressive, but inside I am on fire. My blood is boiling and I want to get the hell out of there, but I'm not moving. I can't move. It's extreme freeze. Extreme.
And seeming that you went and did quite a lot of talk therapy, like from kind of 17 to 35 or 40?
47.
Or so. Yeah. Okay. So 17 to 40. Yeah, 30 years of talk therapy. In any of that, did you feel like those coping skills shifted or changed?
Well, I may have while I was in the talk therapy, because part of the reason that I went is because it was so difficult for me to talk about me and my feelings. So in that moment, but what it didn't really change for me is when I'm under pressure, under stress, and the same old situations come up again, and I still behave the same. I still go into the same freeze thing, the extreme freeze. So while I'm in the talk therapy, it feels good because I'm actually talking, and I feel safe, and I've paid one big thing for me always was that I'd paid a professional to listen to me. So that's what they have to do. So I felt safe. But then when I'm out in real life, something happens and I go into my trance.
Yeah, and but this is such a good point. And I was the same. I did all sorts of other things to try and help myself. Joe did talk there. I went to chiropractors and all sorts of people that more were dealing with the body. I tried to eat the right kinds of foods and exercise and do all these things, but really nothing shifted the trances, because they were from memories from my childhood, and like no one had even ever asked me about like where these things came from. Until I got to faster EFT, and in my world, things have to make sense, right? Joe and I are huge on making sense, and they have to be practical in your life. And faster EFT really made sense to me, because it's like, oh my God, yes, that's where it came from. Oh yes, that's a coping skill. Oh yeah. And oh yes, I don't need it as an adult anymore. As an adult, I have a car. I can drive away from my dad, if he's getting in a grumpy mood. But I mean, even in my 30s, I didn't think that was a possibility. I didn't think you're allowed to do that. That's how strong. And I know with many of my clients, they say to me, but Ilka, I can't do that. Like, I can't answer back to my dad. They're in their, some of them are in their 60s, and they still say, oh, I couldn't do that. We're still trapped in this coping skill.
I was with the counsellor. I'm an adult at this point. I've got 3 children, and I'm talking to her about a phone call that I received where one of my family members is triggered and going into abusing me, and the counsellor said, you can hang up, Joe.
Yeah.
I went, what? I can just hang up on her?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I would have been exactly the same. I wouldn't have. Someone would have to tell me I could hang up, and I would have been scared as hell to hang up. Scared as hell, because what happens then if you hang up? So the reason we are scared, and this is where anxiety really comes from. People talk about, I have anxiety. Well, when you go back and address the memories and change them, and we use the tapping process as part of the faster EFT session. So it's really twofold. There's so many things going on that are changing the core, the absolute core origin of where this stuff comes from. And that's what makes the biggest change. And then you can start using tapping in your daily life. But Joe and I were just talking before about, I don't know, maybe we've never made this really clear, but the calls, and I started doing this about 3 years ago with my group calls. It means someone can come along to the group calls every week, so they can kind of collect their triggers along the way. And then they come to the call and they say, Ilka, this triggered me this week. This triggered me this week. And there'll be usually one really big one. And so with that, I can ask them a lot about what actually happened in that moment. Like, who were you looking at? What was the sound of the voice? What was happening at the time? What was the other person's behavior? Where were you? Sometimes what's the season? What's the time? I mean, sometimes we're just getting overwhelmed because we've got a coping. Every time we went home after school, for example, at 3:30, we didn't want to go home because that's when, mum might be drunk or something like that. So and you've never put it together that time of day is not a good time of day for you. Or, nighttime, like the nighttime routine. And then you go back to childhood, and that's every time mum and dad were fighting. But it's just never been put together. But when I start to really ask them lots of questions about this trigger, it tells me so much about your past. And so every week we get to clean up a big chunk of where these triggers are coming from. And not just like, you can tap in the heat of the moment when a trigger comes up, and you can actually learn to change your own memories too. But there's something beautiful about, for me in the beginning, I wasn't that, I'm very adept, I suppose, at knowing where all this comes from, because this has been my job for the last 7 years now. So this is all I've done for 7 years, is find where people's triggers lead to and help them make sense of it. I mean, my greatest joy now is that moment where they go, like, of course that's where that comes from. Of course, but because you're not asking yourself these questions each day, and it does take some, courage, as Joe and I always talk about. It takes massive courage, and it takes a belief that you can change it too, like a belief to turn up for yourself and commit to yourself, and knowing that you're worthy to do that. Right, because until I started doing Fast OT, I probably, I put everyone else before me. I didn't, and I was embarrassed too. Even when I first did my first sessions, I was so embarrassed to be like, it's all good, it's fine, I'm okay, like really. And the practitioners were so beautiful, and this is like me too. I love to try and help you find where something comes from. But I was embarrassed when I first showed up, and they're all asking me questions. I mean, I'm taking up too much of their time, I know what I mean here.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So, what about for people who say, yeah, I've done it before, and it doesn't work for me?
Oh, tapping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what we've just been talking about is a good reason that we kind of go, oh, it doesn't work for me, because of course your coping skills are huge. And especially if you still spend a lot of time around your family, then somebody tells you've got to get rid of some of or not get rid of them, but if somebody said that to you, like, you're not allowed to do that coping skill, even though you're probably not really conscious that you're doing a coping skill. But then if someone really confronted you on it and said, okay, well, I'm going to take that away, you'll go into like full on, I'm not, right? So just to start to have an awareness that you are in a coping skill is probably the first step, because it's like, oh my God, do you mean I don't need to do that anymore? And that's like successful, like it's been really successful in my family. Because the other thing that we're taught a lot, and spiritual books and all sorts of other books are often talking about the ego as a bad thing. Like it's got this doesn't have to be, because it's not, but we start to feel bad about ourselves, that we should be able to focus on the positive. Like I should be able to change this. But there's a child inside of you that is digging their heels in that strong, when that is, even if someone came up to me and said, well, Ilka, you should be able to change this. My 4-year-old self has got her finger up big time and saying, fuck you, I am not changing this, because this thing has kept me safe for a very long time. And if you don't understand that, because one of my biggest things was no one understands me. So if you're not compassionate and like showing me that how much this thing protects me, then I'm going to tell you to fuck off, or like you, Joe, I'm just going to make sure I don't run into you again.
Yeah.
Because you might, I've had coaches and people like that are, and also I hate being told what to do. Right, so it's like, as Joe
I know that.
Joe knows that very well. Like so.
But back to the ego, how the ego works with this, and how it's the protection of that little child inside. Yeah.
So I don't even know what other people call what the ego is, but I know when people come to me with that word, it sounds to me, or if I ask them, they'll go, oh yeah, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't. But the ego is the thing that helps you walk across the road. The ego is the thing that, like, it makes sure that you look right. In Australia or in America, you have to look left. But that is the part of you that is doing that. So the ego is your friend. It's only your friend. It's just that when you get to be an adult, you don't need the coping skills of being a child anymore. And they're often not serving you in your life with your husband and your children like they served you in childhood. So now you've got a husband who's different to you and children who are different to you. They have different coping skills and they don't understand your coping skills. And so now you're in this,
this battle that where, like, I am so right. I am so right that this is the way, that this is the right thing for me to do. And in fact, the right thing for everyone to do, to abandon people when they show emotion.
Yes.
That is just what you do.
Yes.
Don't try and tell me that there is another way.
Yeah, don't. Exactly. Or I could just laugh you off in the beginning. Like, a lot of my laughter and all of that was just a coping skill as well.
Yeah.
But these days, that's very different. So you're we have all these skills, but as children, you learned to cope with them. So it's about going back again without the faster EFT understanding of how the ego is always successfully producing life for you. Always. It is always your friend. It's just that the way it's operating now as an adult is outdated for your life. It worked really well as a child and you were super smart. It was super, super smart. It did everything it had to do to protect you and keep you safe in that environment.
And this is why we say that triggers are our golden opportunity, because when I'm triggered and when this comes up in me or in the past, like, to be with a practitioner, the practitioner has to have a lot of courage, because I'm going to go, I'm in fight, flight, freeze, and you're going to challenge me on this being an unserving belief for me right now, unserving behavior that I've held on to for 47 years. And so I'm going to go harder in telling you that you're wrong. This is right for me, and the fear is going to get bigger, the emotions are going to get bigger. So that's why.
And that is the brilliance of having tapping in a session, and that when we're going to share Peter Stapleton's video underneath this video, and also it's in the file section, because she's talking about it there in a TED talk, how it's the new wave in therapy, because by tapping with the things that are coming up for you, you're able to stay calmer, for one. But also the faster EFT understanding, and this is why I always say to the ladies when they start to get like, oh, Ilka, I go, okay, this is where you're going to want to punch me in the face. And that kind of brings some laughter. And then we can do some tapping rounds. We can use this incredible tool to bring you back to kind of going back and seeing where this comes from, as opposed to, wanting to use the coping skill right there and then, with me or So it really releases it. It releases the whole thing. And then by going back and changing our memories as well, where this stuff came from, or addressing where it came from. And that's a whole other, I won't go into how that works today, because we're going to focus on the tapping, but memory change work is just incredible. Like, as far as it is shifting things, and you couldn't believe some of the things that happened. Like this week, I worked on someone around food, and she has had her son only eating certain kinds of food and asking for different food, but then refusing everything that she offers him. And this has been going on for quite a long time, and really, getting kind of annoying, and she's not knowing what to do about it. So she did a session on herself, and then I sent a video yesterday of her son trying a new food, and she's just like watching him going, oh my God, look at this.
That's the crazy magic of the work. You do the work on yourself.
Tapping.
Yeah, do it on yourself first. And then
we had something else as well.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to talk to her shortly after this live and record her talking about that story, and then so I'll pop a link on this
But
as well.
we worked on food. She said to me, Ilka, I want to work on my food issues, right? The mum. So this is why it's a crazy statement to say that when we shift, our children shift. But I just see it. I wouldn't say it unless I'd seen it. I can, like I say to Joe, we can talk about ourselves, and Joe's like, I'm big on that, aren't I? It's like if it's not true for me, but now we've been working with the parents and seen this so many times, where they shift and then their kids shift, and it's just incredible. So
I think another really cool thing that many of the mums speak about, and some of you may have already seen some of the videos with them talking about this, is like turning up. We're busy mums, and we've got to make time to turn up for ourselves. Well, the mums speak about having their kids with them. Their kids are there. They can feed them. They can bath them. They can be doing the dishes during the calls.
Yeah, and sometimes the kids work well. I mean, I love it because the kids work well in bringing on the triggers. Some of the mums are we're waiting their turn, they're like around the group, and then their child will come along every time when it's their turn to talk. And I know that used to be a massive trigger for me. I'd go all day where I hadn't talked to an adult, and I'm so excited to, have that phone call at 1 o'clock or something. Somebody would ring me, and my kids hadn't wanted to speak to me all day, and then all of a sudden I'm on the phone and now they want to talk to me, and I would be up to here in anger because it's just like, oh, can you give me some space? Can you give me some time? So we can tap on that in the heat of the moment, and we always have time for the kids, always. That's our major priority on the calls. I will stop everything and make sure that they're, if you need to swap over to another boob, or you have to do whatever you need to do with your children, that they are the first priority. But they're often my little helpers. I always say, like, I've got a phone line to those children. I'm like, okay, time to come in. time to trigger mum again, so we can tap it away, because when you tap it away the next time, it's just, you're going to be able to, like, it just won't bother you in the same way that it did before, which is just so freeing. It's amazing.
It certainly is. So I'm thinking we finish up with a little heat of the moment tapping again, so that next time you're triggered and you feel emotion coming up, you've got that golden opportunity, that second where you can go into awareness of what's going on rather than just your automated behavior, and tap and do this.
Yes. So say we made a list of things here. You've got even that one, when you want to be on the phone, when it's the first adult conversation you've had all day, or and then there's anything like this where your child is whining, where you're late, anytime you're feeling overwhelm, anxiety, all of those things. What you do is you get these fingers like this, and you just pick them up. And then you aim at where you notice this overwhelm. You go, okay, I'm aiming at it. All right, I notice it, like it's like, there it is. It's right there in my chest, right? And it's like, it's like a 10 out of 10. And so then you tap. Say, like, I just say, let it go. People go, Ilka, am I doing it right? Really, if you do this, you notice your fingers tapping. Notice your fingers tapping. Like, feel the sound of them. Feel the feeling. Hear the sound.
Does it matter?
Oh, there they are.
Does it matter where I tap? Does it matter?
Sometimes we tap around here. This one's really good around the ears. Oh,
can't get it wrong.
Tap the top of your head. But these, if you're vibrating these meridian points, which are everywhere on your body, you're going to be getting in touch with those. So if you're somewhere around those 4 points, that's it. And then, yes, you can use all sorts of others. There's some around your ears that are really good. But you just go, let it go, let it go, let it go. And then big, deep breath. Hold away. And then grab your wrist, Give it a squeeze. Peace. You can think of it as somewhere happy, like Joe's at Mooloolaba Beach there. This is my beach, so you can go there in your mind, or you can just think of your puppy dog's face. It's good to go somewhere happy in your mind, have a happy place that you use all the time. Okay, I'm there. All right, now go back to this overwhelm. Now, if you're a mum and you've got kids around you whining, it's probably like, okay, I can refocus on that now. Is it still bothering me? And if it's still bothering me, okay, it's still an 8 out of 10. All right, and then you just, again, notice your fingers, you can do some crazy happy slappy tappy if you're really like in the trance of it. And around the back of your ears, that really does feel good. If you're kind of a kinesthetic person, that's a really good one.
And I yawned before too. Now that's a good thing. Tell us why that's a good thing.
Oh, that's a really good thing. That to me shows you that you're changing those neural pathways in your brain. We're actually adjusting how your brain, directs information when we do this, and directing it to something more calm, directing it to, your happy places. Let it go. Okay, big deep breath. And people say, oh, how long do I have to tap? Just tap, just do a few rounds, let it go, let it go, let it go, go back. Happy place, think of your doggy's face, think of the beach, think of somewhere good. Okay, and then again, aim at, notice your kids, notice what's still bothering you. If you've gone off to the toilet, can you hear them? Oh my God, they're still fighting. Okay, does it bother me? Try and bring it back, even go, is that bothering me? Yep, it's still bothering me. So let it go, feel your fingers again, feel your fingers. Notice the sound of them tapping, tune into something different. If you're getting in a really big trance, I do things like sing myself happy birthday. Happy birthday to me. Or I say, oink, 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 oink. Like I do something really silly so that I can break myself out of this, trance. Okay, a big deep breath. And then again, grab your wrist and just notice, yep, I'm at the beach. Got the sand in my toes. The temperature of the water is amazing. Oh my God. Okay. Now let's go back and then we check our kids. Is the sound of them bothering me anymore? Now, as you can see, we've taken about 3 minutes here. 3 minutes to do this. And you'll notice, even if you've tapped along with us, that you have significantly lowered how you're going to respond to your children now. Like I'm feeling so much calmer. So now I would be able to go out and perhaps get down on my kids' level and go, okay, and speak in a calm tone. As before I tapped, my response was probably not conducive to achieving anything, because I would get angry and then the kids get angry back at me, and it's just a snowball effect of negativity, really. But if you spend 3 minutes, just take it. If your kids are older, you can take yourself off to the bathroom and tap. If they're little babies in arms, then you just use one hand and just get it down to at least a 5 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10, hopefully a 0 out of 10, and then respond to your kids, and decide what action you're going to take. Yeah. So is that good?
Yeah, that's very good. Very cool. Awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you have any questions, pop them below. And if you're interested in finding out more about the course, we're doing free discovery calls over the next 5 days, because we kick off next Monday.
5 days. Yes. Excited. That's really cool. So excited to welcome some new people on board.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. And there's loads of, if you want to hear from other mums who've done the course and hear about their experiences, there's the hashtag tapping works.
Yes.
And you'll find some there.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Awesome.
I look forward to seeing your interview with Arwen as well. That'll be amazing.
Cool.
Okay. Thank
you.
All right.
We'll see you next Wednesday. Have
everyone.
a great week.
Okay. Bye.